some kind of thought that I would chase down and climb all over the map. And don't worry here, this is completely normal. Not casual. See nothing.
Check 1, 2.
Microphone check? All right.
Start over.
Let's start over. Where was I? That's the worst thing that can happen to me. And so I might be asking some of you what I was just talking about, and you can remind me. I don't have power yet. I'm going to have to. Thanks, man. Yeah, I love power. Well, we're actually going to talk about the power of alcohol today, and that's an interesting subject for me. I had 3 subjects that I picked, and I was well prepared to do 2 of them. Just a joke. All right, so I'm full of them, and they're not all good. I am a dad, so just be prepared for that kind of thing. I wanted to talk about alcohol for a number of reasons. Alcohol is a very interesting thing. Why get into alcohol and why talk about this? This is the herb gathering, but of course herbs and alcohol are best friends, and we know that we utilize alcohol as a technology for a long time. I have my cheat sheet of notes here, and I will be reading from them. I hope that's okay with everybody. Because this is a bunch of factoids and history bits and things that I just can't jam into my head because I have enough that's already stirring around in there. So I have my cheat sheet here, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how I came to arrive at this talk. And really, it starts with a history of research in occult philosophy, so that's where it starts.
I like your avocado ball.
Like any good thing, I read a lot of old, difficult books. Is anyone a fan of 100-year-old books that are really hard to read, and you put them down and go, I don't think I got anything from that? Yeah, myself included. So I picked up this book over here, and I brought some of the books that led me into this exploration to show you, and I would invite you afterward to come up and check them out. But this book is called Liber 420, Cannabis, Magical Herbs, and the Occult. So, surprise, it's about cannabis. Kidding. It is a little bit, but not totally.
You see this?
100%. That's there. It's there.
That's working?
Boost it up.
You can do that.
Perfect.
You want it a little higher?
Yeah, a little higher. Great. So you should be able to barely make it out, which is great, because that's we're outdoors in the sun. So medicinal use of alcohol. But Liber 420, that's where I was, and that's where I will continue from. This is a fascinating book. So he explores cannabis, he explores herbs, he explores the occult. But really, what it started out with that led me into my exploration to start with was the Scythians. Who's heard of the Scythians? I'm surprised and I'm amazed and I'm impressed. It's not something we read about in our history books very often, but the Scythian culture is actually my ancestry. So this is chasing my lineage and my ancestry back to these wild, tattooed, horse-riding herbalists and magicians. Strange that I find myself kind of in the same place, but we do follow our ancestry when we start to, move away the dross and tune into who we actually are. So I got inspired by this. I started looking into this noble warrior tribe class who practiced magic and herbcraft. They were. You didn't see that. The invisible ghost of it is free. It's totally with me again. So where was I? Yeah, they were known for these conical hats and all this other stuff. And actually, this would be what the witch folklore and iconography would have been derived from. So the Scythians, I'll move the head already. This is Odin. Does anyone know Odin? Hi, Odin. The one-eyed man who will do anything for wisdom, including give away one of his eyes. So this is really the evolution of the Scythians, or the Sake as they were known, in Persia. So this nomadic tribe, they were everywhere, and they spread out. They were warrior hunter herbalists. And the interesting part for me is that this is sort of where this kind of thing comes from. And we know the Wizard of Oz witch with the hat. Well, we can thank Odin, I think, for that. So here's an example of a couple of the sort of the vibe of the Scythians here with their little pointed hats. They were goldsmiths and master craftsmen as well. But they were very much into their magical plants and their magical wisdom. And they were part of a group that partook in something called Halma, or Soma, you might have heard of before in the Indian tradition. Halma and Soma, this comes from the Avesta. This is an ancient historical text that was sort of a religious text, I guess you could say, from these people. So both in India and Persia, they were utilizing the green line, and that's what I have up here. This is the alchemical language for cannabis, okay? And this is an actual gold vessel. We found gold bongs. I think there's a better term for it, but that's what I call it. It's a bong. And they've been found to contain traces of cannabis and opium. So both in India and Persia, they have a common Indo-European link, right? And that's really what I'm getting down to, is this Indo-European ancestry and what it was derived, or how they derived these things. The cannabis cult, they were known as. So traces of cannabis, traces of fentanyl and opium and all these other plants have been found at an ancient site in Bactria. And this is a place where they prepared the halma, I think it's pronounced halma. And so they found these things in Persia where they reverently prepared the halma, and they found traces of herbal medicine. They found traces, like I said, cannabis, opium, and things like that. So the Persian alchemists that were familiar with both cannabis and alcohol as a preservative, as well as the power of extracting, right, like a solvent. They knew about solvents. So you put two and two together. This cannabis cult, they were hanging out with alchemists. So they started infusing the alcohol with things like cannabis. There's a quote here I have from Liber 420 that I want to read for you. And it's in reference to Zoroastrianism. Has anyone heard of Zoroastrianism? Okay. So in reference to Zoroastrian expeditions into the world of the afterlife, this author, Shal Sackett, noted that the preparation of this journey was done by administering to the officiant a dose of mang, which is hemp. And mang, what does that sound like? It ain't your bang. You guys heard bong. You guys heard that for bang bong. I don't know how to say it, but it sounds very similar. So they took an efficient dose of mang, it's hemp, mixed with wine. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Wine? Have you guys heard of wine as a menstruum for herbal medicine? Couple of people, but not super common, right? We don't see herbal wines being employed that much. And so I kind of started scratching my head, and I thought, this is super interesting. I want to know more about herbal wines. So I got into it, and we're going to get into it. And it's a lot of speculation. It's a trip down the history of some of these things. And I'm going to try to piece it all together, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. This is me on stage in front of people, trying to work through something, and I hope you can work through it with me. So we're extracting and infusing in a chemical way with wine. So I'm reading all these texts, these alchemical, difficult books that are kind of confusing and hard to read, and they're always talking about wine. They're saying a thimble full of wine, and I'm meeting God, and I'm having epiphanies, and I'm seeing that the universe is one, all one thing, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what kind of wine are these guys drinking? Right? Any of you had a wine that does that to you? I'm like, okay, this is interesting. A thimble full of wine, boy, that would be cheap too. And so I was thinking, what are they drinking back then? They're not just drinking the regular wine that we have. They're doing something funky, I think. So the ancient writers, they had phrases like in vino veritas. So in wine is truth. And so they're really bigging up the wines. I started getting more and more interested. And I was thinking, is this the booze talking? Right? I don't know. But references in all these old books, fantastic effects from wine, visionary experiences, truly enlightening realizations. I mean, we've all been there at the late night with our friend and gabbing away with a glass of wine, but this seemed like a little bit more than just that. So, I started looking into it a little further. The Zoroastrians, they're an interesting bunch. Journeys in, oh my, what happened to my, I'm sorry, my font is completely different. No, it does bother me a lot though. I have that. Anyway, Zoroastrian journeys into the afterlife, facilitated by cannabis-infused wine. so they're mixing cannabis and wine. That seems reasonable. But in reference to the, I'm way ahead of myself here. Medicating. I had the best one, you guys. Anyway, we'll move on. Medicating with wine like a Greek physician. So, okay, here, where are we? Scientists extracted. No, I'm going to go back. See, I need notes for this stuff. I will refer to you guys when I forget them here. Authors. No, where was I? Let's just start this whole thing over. Shall we? No, I'm actually just looking for the part that I'm trying to catch up on. And this is the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks. They were using this stuff as medicine, for a long time from the 8th century BCE. So we have Galen in the 2nd century CE promoting the therapeutic benefits of wine for both the body and the mind. We have wine infused with medicinal herbs recommended by many ancient physicians to heal a variety of things. So, okay, let's look at that wine. There's something in it. It was held in high esteem, and they had a deity, a dedicated deity to wine. Does anyone know who that deity was? I heard someone say it.
Bacchus.
Bacchus, yes. Dionysus otherwise, right? But Dionysus was the god of fertility, the god of ecstasy, and madness. That sounds on point. Originally a Thracian god, and the Thracians utilized cannabis in their rituals. So I'm just finding these interesting links now. We're talking about wine, but the wine is in coded language, right? The alchemists weren't walking around saying, hey, you guys want to join me for some cannabis? No, because that would get them killed. So cannabis was in the know. It was on the slide. It was under the table. It was on the side. I don't know. There's a phrase there that I can't find, but you know what I'm saying, right? So they were veiling their language. Whenever they wrote about wine, they were veiling their language so that no one really knew what they were actually drinking. And they just, hey, we're having some wine. No problem here, right? So life-changing journeys. Who said Bacchus? You said Bacchus, right? So Bacchus, there was something known as the mysteries of Bacchus. Are you guys familiar with just mystery schools in general? Have you heard this phrase before? Occult literature. That's what I'm doing the metal black. You guys know. So Bacchus, the life-changing journeys, these people going into the mysteries, they were imbibing the wine. If you've heard of Eleusis, the Kykeon drink that they were drinking at Eleusis, they were going in with this expressed desire to touch the divine, right? So they're drinking the psychoactive brew. They're getting treated to a beautiful play of fantastic costume and fire and all sorts of things, and walking away changed forever. And of course you would be. If anyone's tried any psychedelic medicines or entheogens, as I call them, you would realize that if you had been treated to a life-changing play, that probably would have blown your mind and really driven the point home. I'm just sitting in a field going, wow! So, where was I? This Dionysus was known as a medium between the living and the dead. What does that sound like to you guys? Shaman or something, right? A medium that walks both worlds. So Bacchus was the god of, I think, some pretty funky wines. Scientists extracted wine compounds and plant-derived ingredients from a jar in a tomb of one of the first pharaohs of Egypt, Scorpion I. That movie, The Scorpion, was actually about something. Who knew? I never saw it, but it looked terrible anyway. Scientists extracted this compound anyway, and they said, okay, we're finding that these wines have a bunch of stuff in it, and sometimes upwards to 50 or 60 plants crammed in there and given out and doled out as wine. It's the earliest sample of human-made medicine. The researchers report findings in the Journal and Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Patrick McGovern, professor of anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania, led the research. That's the part I had to read, because I don't remember all that stuff. But these vessels were tested from the excavated tombs from the earliest dates were 3,150 BC, so that's before current era, BCE, I guess we should say. This is the earliest Egyptian vessel ever found to have wine in it, and it shows by trial and error humans were discovering remedies over 5,000 years ago. And alcoholic beverages were a key part of that discovery process. So this is a technology that we've been utilizing for quite some time. We tested the jars and they found that there was tartaric acid as well. It's a good sign that we're on the right track. Has anyone heard of a book called The Immortality Key? I haven't read it yet, but I'm desperate to get to it. I have too many books, but yeah, this is very much in line with Brian Moresky, thank you. And what they found was these hordes of ancient wines were turning up with all these botanicals and all these psychoactive plants and herbs. So that warranted another deep dive into alcohol in general. So I started with cannabis, always, right? It starts with a little bit of cannabis, and then all of a sudden, it's more like alcohol, actually. A little bit of alcohol, and we're on our way. So that brought me to, look at this, where am I? I'm behind. Drink like me. Okay, so what is in the menstruum? What is this talk, and where did it come from? Well, I want to start off by saying I think my tagline was pretty catchy, had some impact, but it was factually incorrect. So I'm admitting something right here. I lied to you all. Not really though. It was for fun. I wanted to be fun, and then see what talk was all about. But we never stopped infusing the menstruum. I said something crazy like we stopped infusing the menstruum and just started drinking the alcohol. It's not true. We always infuse the menstruum, and we always continue to infuse the menstruum. But there's two sides to this tale, right? We have the medicine side, of course, and then we have the side that some people will only access, which is this sort of recreational idea. It's a terrible word for the things that we apply it to sometimes, but recreational use, or sometimes dangerous use, right? So what does seem clear is that the people that had the alchemical and botanical knowledge were infusing things. Well, the commoner, I guess they were referred to as, which would be just about everybody. They were just kind of numbing or maybe using it in a way to react to their challenging lives, because Middle Ages, right? It wasn't a fun time, I don't think, for anyone. And I won't go off on a tangent. By the way, I'm a tangent guy, so I'm trying to keep on point. If I tangent too far, I won't get through this, because I got a lot to tell you. This brought me to this idea of what has been and remains a truism is this chronic abuse of this particular medicine leads to soul consumption, right? That sounds kind of rough, right? Unless you're a soul-eating demon and you're hungry. Anyway, be in the world, not of the world is the phrase that came to mind, right? Because what happens in our world is this ever-present message of using alcohol to get party or whatever, have a great time, that kind of thing. So what are spirits? I started thinking about this. What are spirits? And whenever I'm thinking about something and I wonder what it is, I look it up. And so I'm going to show you what I found. That's okay. The liquid containing ethanol and water is distilled from a pure alcohol liquid or mash, often used in plural. Any various volatile liquids obtained. That's a rather silly place to put my water bottle. Volatile liquids obtained by distillation or cracking as petroleum, shale, or wood, often used in plural. Are usually volatile organic solvents such as alcohol, ester, hydrocarbon, prevailing tone or tendency, spirit of the age. I should have cut these down. I think there's a few not so relevant. But anyway, general intent of real meaning, the spirit of that law, an alcoholic solution. Now we're getting to it. An alcoholic solution of volatile substance, the spirit of camphor. So we've defined spirits here. And I wrote this phrase, when I was coming up with the talk, this phrase came out early, and I didn't know why, and I just wrote it down. And then I realized, oh yeah, there is a point to this, because I want to talk a little bit about what happens when we lose consciousness, but something else continues in our body. You guys are all familiar with that, maybe, or some of you. So calling them spirits in reference to what's captured in it, I think alcohol is best defined as something, a substance that captures spirit, right? Instead of just calling it spirits, because that sort of is kind of confusing. What happens during a blackout? When a person's meat suit, which is what I refer to as the human body, the scientific term for that is the meat suit, continues to operate in the world for several hours, and that person is nowhere to be found. What's going on there, right? So I started to see what general people were thinking about that. That's lovely. By consuming alcohol into the body, it in effect extracts the very essence of us. Right? It just extracts the soul of whatever it's coming into contact with. So allowing the body to be more susceptible, essentially, to, I don't know, entities. If you're going to prescribe to this, you guys got to go all in with me here. Is that okay?
Yeah.
This is a conjecture talk. We're just having fun, right? So the neighboring entities, I picture these kind of things that are hanging around and they're just waiting for a dull moment. You know, oh, he's down and out, and jump in. And so this idea that maybe when our body becomes so polluted, the good soul leaves. This is what people say. And it's just become too traumatic for that soul to be in the body. The good soul is jettisoned out, apparently it stays connected to some tether, and I can attest to that because I came back and I'm here. I have had a couple of these, and it's a kind of a scary event, and I don't drink the way I used to, thankfully, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But our bodies are like cars almost, right? We get out, the spirit can hop in and just go for a little spin. Anyone ever feel like someone else took a spin in their body? And yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Essentially, someone goes dark after drinking, and they become possessed, right, by some other entity. People talk about becoming more sexual, more violent, less rational, less logical after too much excessive drinking. So this is where it gets really kind of funky. This is as far out, and we're gonna go. We're gonna come right back. But this last little bit I read, and this kept showing up, so I thought it was definitely relevant to bring up. It says, "Are you aware?" This might freak some people out. I hope I don't see half of you leave. Are you aware that we already live inside an ancient religious cult who are schooled concerning the dark powers of alcohol? It is this cult that popularizes it through the media and government it controls to serve a very dark and ancient agenda. There you go. Right? Yeah, kind of crazy. But in my experience, there's some resonance, and I thought, okay, yeah, I'm not the only one. I just look out. I'm a public intelligence analysis. I'm always asking questions, and I'm always like, hey, did you feel dizzy on Wednesday? Something was going on Wednesday, because I was dizzy. So maybe this alcohol facilitates, come back here, facilitates a walk-in. I lost my spot. Yeah, so it facilitates a walk-in. We have these discarnate entities that kind of come in and have a little fun before they drop you off to deal with the aftermath, right? Oh, that's a fun one, and I don't have to get into that too much, I don't think. But in alchemy, alcohol is used to extract the soul essence of an entity. So its use in extracting oils and things, wonderful, perfect. When I had a different relationship with alcohol, the amounts I would consume were sometimes a little bit more than I'd like to admit. And on occasion, this resulted in the thing I was talking about, right? What happened last night, I wasn't there. And that was terrifying to me. I didn't like that. Who was in my body? I couldn't say. Deep down, I had a sense that that wasn't right. That wasn't the way to go. And so the conflict itself sort of forced me into a bit of a healing trajectory. It actually brought me here today. So I feel, at liberty to kind of share this part with you because it is pertinent, I think. The loss of my soul. I felt like I was losing my soul, and I literally think I was. Because the more we drink, the more our soul is kind of being consumed by that menstruum. And I'm calling it a menstruum for a very specific reason, because it's capturing us, right? Instead of what we can use it for as a technology. So when I started working with tinctures and meads and metheglins, all of a sudden I started to form a different relationship with alcohol. I started looking at it as something that I needed to form a better understanding relationship with. I wanted to trust in myself that I could do that, right? So when I'm talking about it is the abstinence model, and I'm not going to stay here because that does work for some people, but for me it was basically like saying, I don't trust myself. I don't think I'm able to do this, so I should just stay away. And something drew me in. Something was saying, no, alcohol has something for us. There's something in it. And maybe, I'm missing all my slides here. These are really good. I'll be back after this blackout. See, I had too much fun with this stuff. But, really, what I'm trying to get to, or what I'm aiming to get to here is we're finding our wounds and we're healing those wounds. alcohol sort of allows deeper wounds to emerge, right? And especially sometimes right in the moment. But I was thinking about this as we hear an alcohol problem. We hear people say, oh, he's got an alcohol problem. And I thought, well, is this an alcohol problem or is it a parental, generational, societal trauma that they're maladjusted to problem? Right? I don't know. I think that we need to get more nuanced with all these conversations. You know, we tend to blame the substance, not the initial condition of human suffering. And I think that's kind of what we're all getting together to really address, right? When we're working with people, we're working with herbs, we're helping to nourish and get the body back up to speed, but we're also helping to address the spirit and the soul and all that damage that we sustain as we're coming up to this, point in our lives where we take charge and start to move away from that. So it seems to be a result of internal suffering, and that's the individual. But it doesn't have to be. We don't have to leave it there. This is only one side of the story, because alcohol has medicinal benefits and has potential uses as well, and those are sometimes in the very simple form of an antiseptic, right? We can preserve things, we can stabilize things with alcohol. It's a painkiller. Who remembers the old Western where they're biting on a stick and drinking some whiskey while they're getting something taken out of their leg or whatever, something like that? We can enhance digestion by supporting and warming the stomach and the GI tract. We're improving circulation, blood flow. Alcohol moves our blood, right? It's up and it's out. So often when we're doing tincture provings, there can be some confusion because you're like, oh, I feel like it's all up and out. Like, is that the alcohol? Is that the herb? I don't know. Have you guys tried rhodiola? Right? Take enough rhodiola and you're like, I don't know what's doing what, but it's all moving. So potential medicinal benefits. I thought, you gotta have the possibly reducing the risk of dying from heart disease, right? Because now we're talking about your baby aspirin when you're over 7. Instead, we're having a little bit of alcohol, thinning the blood, maybe making it. Actually, did you know in blood torpidity, there's a secondary action that's also beneficial. So the more our blood flows, the more good things happen. And I gotta look up what that is. I can't remember that part, but it's interesting. So look at it. Possible reducing the risk of ischemic stroke and reducing the risk of diabetes. So how many drinks should I take, Doc? We hear this all the time in the human interest stories, don't we? One drink is good. 1 drink a day is good. Two drinks a day is good. You should have 2 drinks. Women can have 1 drink a day. Men can have 3 drinks a day. You can have I started looking into this, by the way. It has changed over time so much that at one point, even your 2-year-old was getting kind of a little bit wobbly, right? So it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation. I called it a common town square conversation. But it's one of those things that we're told it's good for you, it's bad for you. There's all sorts of confirmation and logical fallacies that are going to come into that, right? So we have to move away from all or nothing type things because that's intellectually it doesn't hold up in a debate. It's more nuanced, and perhaps I think it's all in the dose, right? We talked about a tincture is 5 mil, maybe 5 mil, 7 mil, or something like that. 2.5 mil is kind of on par with a ripe banana, I think, in that respect. So I treat my little 2-year-old with herbies. He calls them herbies, heebies. He says my heebies. And he loves them. So we shouldn't be necessarily afraid of alcohol. But what is alcohol? Alcohol is a solvent, right? So now let's get a little bit more into kind of what is the solvent. The solvent is a component of a solution that is present in the greatest amount. It's the substance in which the solute is dissolved, and usually the solvent is a liquid. However, gas solids, supercritical fluids are hard to come by these days, so I recommend the other one. I don't know what supercritical fluid is actually. Yeah. What is it?
It might be with essential oil, it's not essential oil, it's the CO2 extraction where it turns.
Right.
It's in the other nose.
Okay. Well, thank
It
you.
goes from one medium into another and pulls as a menstruum.
Oh, of
And then it
course.
comes another.
I have heard of this before. I'm playing dumb, I think.
But I don't know if that's true, so don't.
I was quoting you 100%. I am quoting you. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. The amount of sulfur required to dissolve a solute depends on the temperature and presence of other substances in the sample. The word solvent, this is actually the most important one that I thought was kind of neat. It's a the word solvent comes from the Latin solvo, which means to loosen or untie. And so we're loosening the spirit out of something. I thought that was really cool. It gave me the image of, like, I don't know, a shaker knit sweater in a dirty sink with a hand going like this. I don't know where this stuff comes from. I'm a visual person. Just like that. But what is a solvent? The universal solvent. Have you guys heard of this phrase, the universal solvent? What is the universal solvent? It's a substance that dissolves most chemicals. Universal solvent. Water is called the universal solvent. Did you guys know that? It doesn't dissolve everything, but it is called the universal solvent. It dissolves more substances than any other. That's why we go with that one. But typically, like dissolves like, so meaning that polar solvents dissolve polar solvents, such as salts, non-polar solvents dissolving non-polar molecules, such as fats, and other organic compounds. Why is water called the universal solvent? Well, we just talked about that. What did I tell myself? Water dissolves more chemicals than I think I'm repeating myself. I am. Darn it. That was me trying to stay up a little too late when I can finish my notes. That's why you don't have my notes. I'm going to give you my notes, and I want you all to come up afterwards and talk to me. I'll give you a card, and I'll send you my notes. I just think I've got on time. Sorry about that. So, anyway, let's move on to the nitty-gritty of this. Distilled ultra-purified water absorbs nutrients from the environment, right? So, that means if we take water and we hyper-distill it, we make it super, super pure, and we drink it, that's actually going to take those things from us. Right? Has anyone heard this before? Ultra-purified water is very dangerous. It pulls, and it's going to take from us. So, strangely, at one time, alcohol was called the water of life. You guys heard of that before? Yeah, aqua vitae, the water of life. Could that be because of the dangers of water back in the day? I would say so. Like I said, the whole family was drinking alcohol. That's because water was really unsafe at a certain point. So, we're boiling water for alcohol. That seems like a good precursor to a sterile medicine, or a sterile drink. So let's go with alcohol. When they started to do this is Taddeo Alberati, and Taddeo is a 13th century Florentine alchemist. Taddeo was developing distillation, mostly used for fermenting products like wine. When he published the Vertibius Aqua Vitae, describing in detail the distillation of wine, he described it as the mother and mistress of all medicines. He believed that a little aqua vitae every morning would keep you happy in old age and even to eat something. That's pretty good, right? In 1494, brother John Core, this character, was noted to receive 8 bolts of malt to make aqua vitae for King James the IV. Is that 4? I think that's 4, right? The one in the V? Right. So King James the IV, he gave him a bunch of malt and said, make me some aqua vitae at Lindor's Abbey. And in modern terms, 8 bolts is equivalent to 500 kilograms of malt. So it's enough to make 400 bottles of whiskey. It's a lot of whiskey. And did you know that whiskey is actually just distilled beer? Mind-blowing. I mean, in my mind, anyway. I guess I don't know much about distilling, but anyway, I should read the quote here. Distilled beer and the blessings rendered thereof are the divine view of sacred Scotch. And then the second quote, I kind of lied. I made that quote up. That was my quote. So John's not so happy about that, but that's okay. In modern times, yeah, so we call this Scotch whiskey, right? This is what, and this company is still making this at Lindor's Abbey in the UK. And this is a throwback. We're still doing that James IV had ordered. And he was very knowledgeable in the art of medicine. He was interested in alchemy, and he founded a laboratory which produced large quantities of this aqua vitae. And he also set up a medical organization that later became the Royal College of Surgeons. So that I thought was rather fascinating, and gave them an exclusive license to produce this stuff. It was used as anesthetic and for other medical purposes. Lindor Abbey today still makes this malt spirit, and they're using cleavers and lemon verbena and sweet Sicily. I don't know that herb. Does anyone know sweet Sicily? Yeah? I don't know. Can someone tell me about sweet Sicily?
It's like a licorice.
It's a licorice flavor,
Like,
that's
well,
what it
like
was.
sort of
Fennel.
fennel, yeah, maybe fennel.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Those ones are used quite frequently in the flavoring, right? So let's get ahead here to Sumerian culture. This is a Sumerian seal, but in the Epic of Gilgamesh, do you guys know the Epic of Gilgamesh? The Sumerian tale. There's a man who, an underdeveloped man, this is the how they describe him, an underdeveloped man, and he becomes cultured after drinking 7 cups of beer. Does that equate for you guys? Because after 7 cups of beer, I'm kind of falling asleep on the couch. Or maybe, I don't know, going to bed early. But this brew likely contains spiritual plants and herbs in it as well. In all these ancient cultures, they were utilizing this stuff to prevent headaches and prevent colds, strengthen immune systems, stave off bowel issues, all that kind of good stuff. And the earliest records of medicinal alcohol from the 13th century are coming from Roger Bacon, 13th century philosopher and alchemist. And Bacon says, preserve the stomach, strengthen the natural heat, help digestion, defend the body from corruption, concoct the food till it be turned into very blood. Yes?
Actually, a question about beer. So you say that you feel like you need to go to sleep after that amount of beer, and
It's the hops.
That's the hops.
Yeah.
It makes you fall asleep. But before they didn't used to use hops. So
That's right.
What kind of medicinal herbs and stuff would you say that they used to use rather than the hops, which is now a depressant that makes you fall asleep and is a sleep aid, whereas before it used to energize you and they were called preservers.
Yeah,
Until
right.
the church came and changed it.
That's it. And they did that very specifically. They wanted to knock people out. They were getting all rowdy and crazy. I think I actually have that coming up.
Okay.
I think I have some of
I
those
want to know
tidbits.
herbs.
But yeah. They're off the top of my head, I know that heather was used. Yarrow. Yeah, lots of other herbs. Henbane.
We've got a book at it. It's called, Stephen Erguner did a book called Sacred and Herbal Healing Beers.
Yeah,
over at the Light Cellar.
go check out the Light Cellar table. I'm actually going to buy it after my talk because I wanted to read it before my talk and I never got a chance to. So thank you for that. And these guys, they do all about this stuff too, right? This is your alchemist from back in the day. Has anyone heard of Rabelais before? Rabelais, anyone? Rabelais wrote a play called Pantagruelion, and it's a veiled reference again to a cannabis-infused beverage, but he was using alcohol. Paracelsus, Avicenna, Geber, I don't know how you Geber. These were Sufi-inspired mystics, and they were infusing medicines as well. But the Franciscan monks and the Sufi poets, they were into this stuff. They were brewing a lot of alcohol, calling it ambrosia and nectar and things like that, because they had these mischievous drugs. This is what they called them, mischievous drugs. I like that. Anyone know of any mischievous herbs? Right? We've got some mischievous herbs, right? Absolutely. So special elixirs, alcohols, modern-ish kind of brewing Benedictine monks. Now we're saying modern-ish, this is going to 1880, but it's pretty modern considering we've been way back in the BCEs, right? So modern monks. The Benedictine monks of Buckfast Abbey were known for brewing and distilling an alcoholic beverage known as Benedictine liquor, and that had a secret blend of brandy and 27 plants and spices. That was produced in 1510. Now they make something called Buckfast. Anyone know Buckfast? We have a Buckfast, yes. I'm so impressed. That's awesome. How do you know about Buckfast?
I just lived in Scotland for a long time,
That's
and
all you gotta
people
do.
get really crazy on it. You always see the glass
Irish
bottles all
and
over the
Scottish
street
are-
after a Friday night. So
Yeah. I lived
it's
in
leafy
Ireland.
juice, like
So-
yeah.
The aftermath of walking through the street and seeing bottles of this
Yeah, it's
everywhere,
wild.
right?
Yeah.
Do you get that anywhere here?
No, I had a friend bring it over for me. They called it camping sauce. The Buckfast wine, it first made an appearance in 1880. The modern version was revamped. They kind of messed it up. They added a bunch of sugar and preservatives, and they got rid of some of the herbs because it didn't taste good. It didn't taste good. Right? Anyone who has, just really quickly, who has dealt with the old children in their practice who don't like it if it tastes bad? Right? I think a lot of us herb nerds are kind of like, oh, it tastes bad, I want more. Sometimes we need compliance, right? We need compliance, so we have to make things taste a little bit better. And these guys wanted to, of course, real compliance because they wanted to sell this thing and make a bunch of money, of course, right? So they did. And it was so successful that today Buckfast is abused due to its price and availability. This stuff is so cheap. I think it was like €2 or something, right? €3. And so it's actually been blamed for a lot of antisocial behavior, unfortunately. And the bottle itself even features in the statistics of many violent crimes. The weapon and the sauce come together. So that's quite something. Buckfast was, it may have been invented in 1895, but actually what people were drinking a lot of back then, and this is going to really freak you out, is aquavitae, so distilled spirits, with opium. For the family. Now, I'd like to see just a snapshot of how happy everyone was for a little bit before the addiction kicked in, because that's actually what happened, right? They started to go, oh, wait a second, little Johnny's, not going to school anymore, or whatever. It was a bad thing, right? We don't want to get addicted to opiates. It's a good, powerful medicine, but if we're swilling it back all day because we don't have clean water, that's another thing entirely, right? Was everyone just
No.
I don't know how long that went on for, but it would have been a sleepy bunch. They were flavoring it and giving it cinnamon and saffron and things like that. I think they came up with a variant called Batley's Drops. This was supposed to be a little better because they mixed it with opium and sherry and a little bit of slacked lime. So, diversifying and kind of bringing the levels down. But I think that was still a bit too much. It took up to 1920, though, of course, to outlaw that one. So some people wanted that to stick around. What I've learned is this, though. All the time that we've been using alcohol, it seems that the masses booze while the herbalists and magicians infuse, right? And I wanted to take this a little step further to try to connect those two points, because we talked about solvents, right? And then we talked about alcohol having things in it. What if the reason for packing alcohol with all these things is so it didn't steal from us? That's another interesting thing to think about. Because if the menstruum is eating our soul, or it's just a soul-eating substance, and it's filled with substances, maybe it's not going to take ours, and it can impart that medicine onto us. Anyway, that's where this whole thing started.
Putting minerals in sparkling water?
Pardon me?
Like putting minerals in sparkling water.
Absolutely, right? It's going to, it wants things in it, and then we can take that. But maybe if we overdo that too much without it, we're losing out, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you were talking about, it's a matter of dose, right?
Yeah.
Because when you overdo it, you mentioned many anecdotal experiences, but oftentimes it's in that beginning initial phases, that middle path, that moderation once becomes spirited, it's additive in that regard.
Absolutely. Yeah, so in that sense, we should really consider the approach that we're coming out with alcohol in our individual lives and how we're utilizing it and what it means to us. Because maybe we start out with a little bit and we end up taking a lot more, but that's knowing yourself a bit, and that takes a bit of work too. Laudanum. I just thought that was cool. I'm walking. This is really cool, the bottles and things, and I love that old stuff. So I actually made some laudanum. That's a side thing. I'm going to stay away from that. I'll come back if we have time. What's that?
All the best poets run laudanum.
Right? And I think a little bit of cannabis. That seemed to be a magical combination. I'm not endorsing that. Okay, so I'm going to take us over to the Chinese spirits for a second, because I thought this was interesting that, in fact, the Chinese, I believe, were some of the earliest people distilling, and that was because of the Mongols. Do you guys know about the Mongols? There's a whole thing with Genghis Khan that I'm learning about, and I don't think he was the person we thought he was, too. That's another side stream that we could go on to, and I would be here for another few hours. But look into the true origins of Genghis Khan and the bunch. I think okay, I'll stop. Mongols brought distilled spirits with yeast fermented bases, spreading, normalizing use. In China, alcohol was considered sacred in China, right? It still is. Used for festivals, important rituals, celebrations, weddings, and things like that. It was understood to have the power to heal, prevent illness, ease the effects of old age, and maintain vigor into old age as well. The ancient Chinese had one of their they have so many proverbs, but of course they have another one for alcohol, and it's alcohol is the best of medicines. For ancient cultures, alcohol was used for a variety of purposes, including, all these things that we talked about, gut complaints and preventative against illness and other things. But immortality, staying young, staying youthful, that was part of it for the Chinese. They decocted, they had a traditional liquor that I had a recipe for. I don't see it now. I think it might be at the end. We'll get to that. Meanwhile, in England, I can just leave that there for a minute. Playwright Thomas Nash records excessive use of distilled spirits. This is 1525 now, 1550, mentioning the pervasiveness of drunkenness in England. And so around this time, it is considered, becomes a crime to be drunk, to be a drunkard. Drunkenness is considered a crime. 1600s, all of a sudden it's integrated in all phases of life. What? We just went from like, this is a crime, and it's like, now we're all gonna drink it. So that's interesting, right? We've gone like this trajectory of alcohol is always changing. Holland developed gin around 1650. Game over. Everybody loved gin. The English grabbed gin and they went, yeah, let's do it. In the 1700s, Scotland and Ireland, of course, became the attraction for their premium whiskeys, and you and I can have a talk afterwards about that stuff. Because boy, oh boy, do they love that stuff over there, or do they? I don't know. Maybe it's just ingrained in the culture. Grain is
Honey.
Honey, thank
Honey.
you. Oh, punny. I was moving on to honey, but
Honey,
I thought she said honey. I'm like, how did she know? Amazing. Yeah, here we go. Pharmacopoeia. That's just a cool apothecary shot, right?
Yeah.
Gratuitous apothecary shot. We're not going to get there just yet. We're going to talk a little bit about meads. Are we there yet? Did I just skip the page? I skipped the page. Don't let me skip any more pages, because this is important stuff. Okay. So, in 1906, the official U.S. Pharmacopoeia recognized red and white wine, 8 medicated wines. By 1916, they'd offered 15 in the herbal formulary guide, 15 medicated wine formulas that haven't enjoyed any official status ever since. So, herbal wine fell out of favor in the Western herbal tradition during Prohibition. And I don't know much more about this, but that's when tincturing really came in with higher distilled spirits. So my thoughts were, I don't know, pressing grapes in the closet, not so easy. A mashed up thing of porridge, easy, right? You can hide that, but making wine, maybe not so much. So, and someone, if I'm factually incorrect on any of this, please put up your hand and go, you're way off. No? Okay.
Well, I'll just add that the original Coca-Cola formula was actually called Vin Mariani, and it was a medicated wine. It was, like you say, due to the kind of prohibition, that type of thing.
Yeah.
They shifted it into soda water.
That's so easy.
Yeah, but originally, Vin Mariani.
I need to chase down that now, because that's really fascinating. And I bet you have a bunch of herbs, too, to make that.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, medicated wine.
Right? So medicated wines.
Vin Mariani.
Speaking of which, I have some medicated wine with me. Would anyone like to try it?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do that. So anyway, let's finish off this last little bit of history, and then we'll move on from there. But so relatively stable because of the alcohol content. Herbal wines. That's talking about tinctures, but herbal wines are more volatile, right? They're less precise formulaically, and also less precise than a tincture. We're not going to get quite the same concentration, but good enough for sort of household ailments and just general, vigor, health, tonifying kind of thing. So wines, we should utilize wines maybe a little bit more. While they might not indefinitely last on the shelf, in the health food store, pointing over at Malcolm here, but providing the same heavy-hitting dosage. I think I just read all that. See, reading sucks. I just got to talk. Ultimately, this stuff fell out of favor, and what do we have? What's really making alcohol? Not people. Fungi. It's always fungi. It always comes back to mushrooms, you guys. So the fungi are doing this. What is it? What is it? What are we doing with this stuff? It's fermentation, right? Yeast don't tolerate generally percentages over 18%. Many types of yeast are specific to the material being fermented. And this just looks like a black slide, right? There's a picture there of yeast. But anyhow, the yeast lies at the heart of everything. This is a single-celled organism that is, it's digesting. It's making its way through the food, the sugar specifically. It requires a little bit of oxygen at the onset, and then goes into a sort of anaerobic fermentation, right? It's just to produce what we're looking for, the desired result, ethanol. And of course, there are some products that can become that can get into the mix, things like methanol. We want to avoid that, so we don't want that so much. But we're looking for, simply put, these are yeast tubes, right? Yeast tubes. And that's great for us. We like it. It sparkles. So to surpass what yeast can actually do as far as alcohol content, we need to distill it. We need to ramp it up, right? So we do that with lots of different stuff. Apparently, you can just about ferment anything. I think I would have to ask Malcolm a bit more about that. I think he knows more. And Denis Manzer, if you guys know Denis Manzer and you see him around, you can stop him and ask him about ferments, because he's a bit of a ferment guy. But there's a quote here. You guys know Richard P. Feynman, physicist? He's a cool guy. So check him out. But he makes all sorts of good statements, and I like statements. There in wine is found the great generalization of all life is fermentation. I just dropped quotes. That's just me. Oh, there's a quote for you. I'm trying to tie it in now. What am I doing? What am I talking about? Really, I'm talking about the different things that we can ferment. So the classic is honey, right? Honey is this thing that likely happens kind of on its own. A comb falls in a stump, there's some water, it ferments a little bit, someone walks along, they're thirsty, mead. Wow, cool, right? So mead is ancient. It's one of our oldest, or it is the oldest original gangster, I think, as far as alcohol goes. It's going way back, but then we started to play around with fruits, right? The typical fruits here, apples and grapes. We like our ciders, we like our wine. And then grains. Grains are distilled, right? And what do we add into it? We were talking about the types of things we add into these alcoholic beverages. Some of the very common herbs that we find in these alcohol preparations: juniper, wormwood, mugwort, yarrow, heather, meadowsweet, henbane. That one fell out of favor a little bit, I think. Betony, Damiana, opium poppy, right? Opium poppy is on that list too. Cannabis, hops, elderflower, elderberry, chamomile, sarsaparilla, sarsaparilla. Did I say sarsaparilla or sarsaparilla? Right. It's spelled sarsaparilla. Licorice root, hyssop, ginger, elecampane, angelica, rose, frankincense, myrrh. It just keeps going and going. There's some really cool herbs that go into these things. And as I'm talking about, actually, Logan, you mind grabbing the crazy things that I did? And we're going to talk about that in a minute, because I like doing crazy things. And this is one of them. Mead and metheglins are making a comeback in a major, major way. How cool is that? Did you guys know that in America there's a National Mead Day? Yeah, they have a day dedicated to mead. That's pretty cool. The American Homebrewers Association established it in 2002. It's the first Saturday in August, and mead enthusiasts in America celebrate mead on the first Saturday of August. I think we should do something similar. Who likes mead, by the way? Is anyone? Right? Okay, we have enough people here to start a mead day. So, where am I here? Mead. I'm on mead. Good. It's probably the oldest drink, as I said, fermented, known to humans. It was thought to be consumed on the top of Mount Olympus by the gods, and developed a link with immortality and magical powers and sheer godliness. I've been drinking this stuff for a while. Get it? Well, not entirely. This is not just a recreational drink, though, you guys. This is a medicine. There's some interesting research that's coming out. A couple of scientists are doing some digging into mead. They were saying, what is this stuff and how does it work? They found that there was this compound called chrism, a flavonoid found in abundance in honey that inhibits the proliferation and induces apoptosis, so that's cell death, right? Sometimes our cells don't behave and they continue to live past their time, so we can program them to die. Cannabis is really good at that too, in fact. That's why it works for tumors and things, which is a runaway multiplication of that cell. This has also been known to help with neuroinflammation, right? So I'm talking about just regular meat, regular honey, mixed in with some water, let it ferment, and now you've got a medicine that you can drink on the daily, I think. Yeah.
So is that flavonoid bioavailable just as honey too, though? Or do you have to put it into meat?
That's a very good question. In fact, I would say it's probably in the honey itself, and I think that you could get it from that. But maybe, I don't know if anyone's eating too much of the honey every day. I mean, I'm a honey bear, so I do. Maybe I'm getting extra. I'm going to look into it. But that is a very good question. Is it converted in the process? That's something I don't know. Please remind me afterwards. I do want to find that out. Research that the honeybees actually add great flora of lactic acid bacteria. So they're adding bacteria too in the honey. So the mead, when produced, is actually fermented by these lactic acid bacteria together with the wild yeast. So that's part of the picture I wasn't aware of before. Together they're doing this thing, and they're creating antibiotics essentially. We're finding that this lactic acid bacteria fermentation is actually transferred to the blood. And it helps people that are maybe infected with dangerous pathogens and helps people prevent infections from even taking home. So that, I thought in itself, was super cool. What's the time right now, guys? How much time do we have left? Judge? How much? It's 5:20. Dear, we have 10 minutes left.
You have 25 minutes. 5:45.
5:45, yeah.
Oh, 5:45. Sweet. Just wasted 2. Okay, let's get going. Let's get moving. Okay. So, wait, oh, they're talking. Okay. Sorry, I didn't want to miss a question. I was going to go through and list out the types of meats. Really quickly, though, I think the most important one here for you guys is a metheglin, is a herbal medicinal herb mead. That's a metheglin. There's other names. A rhodamel is a rose petal mead. A sizer is made with apples. So lots of different styles there. And if you haven't tried Middle Mountain Mead, this is made on Hornby Island. It's a fantastic meadery. It's a beautiful place to sit, and they make incredible meads. And I threw up my friend Denis Manzer. Is Denis out there somewhere? No. Denis is he's done several mead making workshops here at the Gathering, and so I just referred to him, taught me how to make mead, and I started doing it right away. So if you want to learn more about that, I would find him as well. Talk to him. So I want to jump over to herb infused wines for a minute here. Again, just to talk about that, because herbal wines are intriguing to me. A traditional menstruum, right? We talked about that. It can also be used as a method to preserve herbs if we ferment the herbs with the process. So we can actually put the herbs into the wine as it's brewing. This is not what I did here. I'm not brewing wine. I just shoved a bunch of stuff in a bottle and shook it up. But how cool is that to actually brew with medicinal herbs? I think that would be amazing. White wines are traditionally used, and why do you think that is? Tannin content. Is that what you said? Yeah, exactly. The tannin content. So if we're going to have high tannins, we might block some of those alkaloid-rich herbs, and definitely don't want to block the alkaloids. Those are some of the funnest compounds that we have. What else here? It's essentially a tincture, right? A wine menstruum tincture. They're doing it again. You guys, should we join them real quick? I wish I could do it. So decent wine is affordable, of course, but if you're going to play around with this stuff, I would say just get a reasonably priced wine to play around with. There's aromatized wines, things that are fortified with distilled spirits. So if you want to make your wine last a little bit longer, it's about 2 tablespoons per pint, which is not how we measure stuff here. And I had to convert that, and that was a bunch of ounces. I can't remember how much of it. You'll have to look it up. There's a thing on the computer or on the internet. It'll just tell you exactly. Converts it immediately. Like you hit a button, it's there.
500 milliliters?
Yes, sir, the internet. I'm totally new to it, have, I'm going to give you guys some recipes too. I found some great recipes. So make sure you let me know, or make sure you come and talk to me, and I'll give you a card and send you the notes, because I don't think it's not fun to necessarily read ingredients to a recipe. But there's some great recipes, and there's lots of cool commercial offerings at the moment. Well, not lots, there's a few. And these ones are from various places around the planet, but there's people making botanical wines now. They're starting to. There's an all rose petal winery, and they make wine from rose petals. How cool is that, right? I'd love to try some of that. A wine infusing kit from Etsy, things like that. So lots of options out there, at least a few, but maybe not lots. What am I saying? The whole point of this talk is to get lots on the market. As you guys, if you get stoked on this idea, hopefully we'll start to do this, right? And we're gonna try a little experiment in a minute that I have decided to undertake, which is to jam a bunch of stuff into some wine and see what happens. You guys are the guinea pigs, because I don't even know what it tastes like. So let's move on here. Let's talk a little bit about herbal beers. Herbal beers are called a grut. Did you know that? That's just yeah, it's called a grut. I thought that was it. Yeah, like the character in a movie. I am Groot. It's like a big herbal beer. Right? So our ancestors are. Oh no, I'm gonna read another quote. I have another quote for you, and this is Stephen Harold Booner. Hey, Stephen's familiar with Stephen Booner? Yeah. Stephen Booner was an amazing speaker. I don't think he's doing so much anymore these days, but he wrote a good herbal book, as Malcolm said. It's over there. But this quote I wanted to read to you, because I thought it was pretty good. I resonate with this. Oh no, that's not it. Where is it? Here it is. Our ancestors believed that everything was alive and interconnected. From the rocks, plants, and trees, the yeast that fermented these sacred ales. To them, ingesting these brews was as if they were ingesting the sacred essence from which is the divine. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. I thought that was so beautiful. This idea, again, of forming a really positive relationship with alcohol. I think that's what my talk is really about, that's possible. With the right kind of, I think, forethought and planning and whatnot. But we can make these herbal beers. And I for one, am going to buy that book, like I said, and start at it pretty soon to see what I can come up with. There's another one here. This is by someone I'm not totally sure who it is, but again, I thought this was relevant. It says, I resonate with this way of thinking so much more than simply associating beer with diet bars in modern times or college frat parties. The difference is the level of respect and reverence for something sacred that over centuries has in many ways become a drink to get drunk on, or many times has a negative connotation to it. I get why. I have seen people I love become slaves to alcohol, and it's lovely. I can't help but wonder if our culture had the same reverence for beer today, would we have as much excess with it in the world? I guess that's a question we can't really answer, but one I've been pondering. So different from today, our ancient ancestors believed that if proper respect and ceremony were not honored, the beer would not ferment, and at worst it would cause illness. So that's kind of, again, like it's intent, right? It's putting a little thought and things into the action and the behavior. And I can get proper esoteric and talk about this being all a play of the mind, and none of us are actually here really. And that's fun, right? Because that stuff starts to have a little more weight when we live in that place. Yeah.
I just wanted to see what this makes me think of is like Paracelsus said the dose makes the poison. Where like if you consume enough water, it can kill you.
That's totally correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it's with anything, it's all a relationship to it that's the teacher, not the substance itself.
Exactly. Thank you. I wish I got that from you before I came up here. No, that was beautifully
I'll
said.
find you after.
That was beautifully said, and it's so true. Right? It's the relationships that we form with things. That's where the healthier or not healthy thing emerges. Right? It's not the substance itself that we tend to do that because it's I think it's a very simplistic way of just kind of blaming something maybe and moving on. Let's see here. What else do I have to say? Anything about this? So these are some of the local offerings, and there's far more. I mean, this is the industry that I could spend too long up here and talk about. But I thought this one was appropriate because it's actually called a brew by Salt Spring Brewery. That's Spring Fever. Howell Brewing. They're near the airport in Victoria. medicinal mushrooms. They're doing all sorts of random crazy stuff. They wanted me to get involved, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I was too busy drinking all this stuff. So, maybe I'll get into that at some point. But I would check them out. Mountain Rose actually has a really cool brew your own herbal inspired beer page that you should check out as well. It's got ingredients and things like that. And I did find, I found this other guy. It's called herbalbrewing.com. And I just wrote cool website because that means tell them about this cool website. It has great recipes and things on it too, so I would definitely go and check that out. And then herbal spirits is kind of where I have, by the way, this is followed by recipes. I have a herbal red saison. And actually, this one's just kind of, I'm going to go back and tell you these recipes really quickly. Because the wine one's really cool. It's from Mountain Rose Herbs again. And it's very quick. This is just Pinot Grigio, honeysuckle, yarrow, boneset, and blue vervain. And it's actually a kind of a bitter, so it's more like an appetite stimulant. The next one is a herbal red saison. And that has lemon balm, lemon verbena, hibiscus, and tilia, linden, lime flower. You guys, who likes lime flower? Boy, combined with hops, though, that could trap you in a nightmare for a while, couldn't it? Okay. So let's talk a little bit really quickly about this. This is a very familiar herbal remedy for all of us, right? Jägermeister. This thing, the old wives' tale is that it sat around on a shelf somewhere and somebody decided to open it and drink it one day. I have no idea how much truth there is to that, but I started looking into it because all of these different liqueurs and things are jammed again with herbs. This one has over 50 herbs and spices, as they call them. Aren't spices just herbs? I mean, we're a bunch of herbalists. Does anyone say medicinal spices? Like, do we? But I guess it's flavor. That's another whole exploration. See, my brain can't help it. Medicinal spices next year. Come to my talk. Not going to do that. But Jägermeister. So it has 50 ingredients. We know of, I think, 12 or 15. We know of these ones anyway. You can count them. It's my math. Cinnamon bark, star anise, clove, ginger root, saffron, coriander, bitter orange skin, chamomile flowers, licorice root, lavender, rosehip, poppy seeds. Oh, they got around that one. Juniper berries, ginseng, red sandalwood, and blueberry. So I actually have a list too of all the medicinal benefits of those particular herbs. But I'm gonna save that for you guys, and you guys can get the notes from me afterwards. But this is a small fraction of the herbs that are in there. And I thought, wow, this is so wacky. Like, the way we formulate as herbalists, I mean, I'm max kind of 6 herbs in a formula. Who's with me there? Maybe 7 if I'm getting super crazy. I'm not a Chinese formulator. Chinese formulas tend to have so many herbs, right? One herb can be considered like 10 plants or something like that. So I'm not used to formulating this way. 5 plants. I usually pick about 5 for people. And I thought this is completely wacky. It's way out of my wheelhouse, and I want to have some fun with it. So this is hence the herbal wine there. But let's take a quick look at Campari. Do you guys know Campari? The Italian bitter drink. When I was in Italy, I learned about Campari. And Campari is gentian root, orange peel, lemon, and angelica. Sounds good, right? Herbal medicine. It's out and around. There's wild cherry bark and dried wormwood in there as well. So this is think about bitters and things like that. The people that are doing some cool stuff now, I mean, again, I'm very limited in my selections here. I think there's far more than this, but the vine is around the corner from my house. And they're doing some nice things with herbs as well. Sheringham, have you guys heard of Sheringham before? These guys are doing it even to a higher degree. These guys are really getting the herbal medicine in there. Rose, kelp, coriander, cardamom, things like that. So people are doing some really great stuff. And but we can do it ourselves, right? We're herbalists, so we have that at our dispense, and we can kind of dig into things, and that's what I do. And so I should talk about that thing. And it looks like there's some gone already. Is that what we poured in? Is that everywhere? Are you serious? That's how much is that? Okay, you guys are all gonna have another cup.
This is like I didn't count heads and like per cup, but we just got started.
Okay, cool. Thank you. We can start actually handing it. So figure it out.
So what about Epsom?
I love here. And before you sip, maybe listen. And if there's something in there that disagrees with you, you can choose to pass it on. So what did I do for my wine infusion? I had lots of ideas. I didn't get to all of them. I was going to make 2 wines. I was going to make one that was kind of medicated and then one with the regular herbs. And I just went with the one. But this has hawthorn berries, arbutus, cacao. Well, arbutus from you story. It's got your arbutus in your guys' arbutus is in it. Cacao, rose, passion flower, California poppy, betony, calamus root, Turnera diffusa, which is Damiana. Do you guys know Damiana?
Yeah.
Oh, what a lovely herb that is. Eh? I love Damiana. It's so nice. What else did I do here? A bit of scoot lat, that's skull cap, sorry. Yarrow. I mean, I jammed a bunch into this thing. I was like, let's just go for it. Let's go ancient. And really put one. And then I went around my yard. I got some lemon balm as well. And I put some lemon balm from the yard, so it's got stories, families, arbutus, it's got my lemon balm, and it's got herbs from all over the place. And we're gonna see what happened.
How long did you let it sit for?
So, there was a couple things I did here. This is infused for 2 weeks, but because of the short time, so I didn't want to compromise the wine. I did fortify it, so I added a little bit of grain alcohol, so that's actually something I guess you might want to know. And fortifying it, I think I mentioned, it's about 2 tablespoons per pint. Yes, something like that. And so I infused it. Where am I leaving that again? Right here. Who asked that question again?
I did.
You did, sorry. So infused it for 2 weeks, but I did something at the beginning, and this is just me thinking thoughts. But I decocted the hawthorn, and after that I added a bunch of the nervine plants, and then I reduced that down. Well, I reduced it first, then I added the plants. Then I put it in the freezer and I froze it. The reason for that was to break apart the cellular structure to try to get more access to the things that I was trying to extract. I don't know. It seemed like a good idea, right? I do that with berries. You guys ever done that with berries? Don't do it with mushrooms, by the way. If you have raw oysters, cook them and then freeze them. If you freeze raw oysters and thaw them out, they'll just be mush. Yeah. Gross.
Put your hand up if you want.
So what's the prognosis here?
Delicious.
Yeah.
It's good, but is it just taste of wine?
Tastes like meat.
Can you
I can taste the Damiana.
Can you get a bit of stuff there?
Yeah.
It's like that first taste and then it goes quick.
Yeah, there's, okay, it's subtle, but there's some things happening.
There's more.
We're doing the wine tasting, guys. Let's get into it, right? What are we doing? I'm going like, I don't taste anything. We need to close our eyes and be with this medicine, right? So you guys have heard the phrase organoleptic sessions, right? Some of you, maybe? Organoleptic? It's a great word, right? I like thymoleptic as well, just because it's got that leptic part. But yeah, organoleptic. So what that is, you guys, is we're tuning into the medicine itself, right? So we're kind of stilling, becoming still, distilling. See, the puns don't stop. It's like a So we're sitting with the medicine. We're kind of, you can close your eyes if you want, but you sort of tune into it. Where is it going? What is it doing? What body parts do you feel it in? How is it affecting your current state? Are you receiving any imagery in your mind? Colors, sensations? Is your foot tingling? These are all relevant things that we can tune into. And the fascinating part about organoleptic sessions is I do them in my mushroom class with people, and I don't tell them what we're doing. It's so fun. It's seriously fun. You give people a little bit of lion's mane, and you sit back and you're like, okay, who's gonna say it? And they're all like, I can feel it in my brain, and my stomach feels good, and all stuff. And you're like, what? That's amazing. Give them reishi, and they're all kind of chill and happy, and chaga or whatever. The people tune into these things. We have the ability to tune in and discern what's happening. I know, she would take one sip of the pitcher and she would go on a journey. It was wild. It's so interesting. But anyway, let's do that now. You all do that? Somebody, does anyone want to pipe up and just give a comment about this wine? I'd love to hear.
Anyone want more?
There you go.
Right?
I hope you guys have figured out my whole plan here, right?
I think everybody's
talking. Totally forgot by stumbling through anything or reading or any of that.
So I have a question.
Yes, please.
Have you used absinthe?
I have tried it, but I don't think it was the real deal. I think I was sold a reasonable facsimile. Yeah. So we're talking about wormwood, aren't we?
Yes.
Right. And is there any? I think that's the ingredient that got Van Gogh to start going at his ear, was it?
Yeah.
Right. I've never had. I've taken wormwood several times, and never do I feel the urge for a knife. But
Also used to eat yellow paint too.
he used to eat the paint.
Yeah, because he was
I'm
trying
gonna blame
to.
the paint, you guys. I don't think it's the wormwood.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting. Yeah.
So when you make gin, a lot of the botanicals, like the juniper berry, goes in the pot in
Yeah.
ash,
That's right.
and a lot of the lighter aromatics go in like a gin basket that gets like vapor infused. So do you know if there's any difference between that, like vapor infusing, or just like sticking the plants in alcohol tincture?
I do. I think we're massaging those chemicals out a little bit. We're doing things to kind of convince them to come and join the menstruum. Whereas like I'm kind of slamming them into this wine and going, "You're gonna be friends," right? And they're kind of begrudgingly they're sort of taking out a bit of the flavor of the food.
Got one more.
There's all sorts of stuff. I don't taste a lot of the things I put in.
I can really taste it, Damiana.
Can you?
Me too.
Oh, that's awesome. Tune into this. I've been talking to you. Honey mustard. Let's reduce this and put it on hot dogs or something. We have a product.
Actually, when I took the first sip, I felt the energy go up, and it was cooling, and it went to the back of my head, and it was like a cooling light that kind of stuck around the back of my head.
That's exactly what I'm talking about with organoleptic sessions, and you just gave the perfect example. The alcohol, right? Up and out and over, and I can almost feel it. See, I'm good at convincing myself that I'm feeling what you're feeling. Every time I hear it. I do it in class. I'm like, really? I think I'm feeling that. Yeah, absolutely, right? Does anyone else feel that movement now?
Yeah.
Just even a little bit of wine, but then the herbs are kind of coaxing that movement a little bit more. And we're starting to warm up. We're starting to feel a little bit giggly. It's starting to kind of get loose.
I haven't finished the cup yet.
Well, I'm on my second. So. I'm just kidding. So let me round this out a little bit and just say, there's a famous toast, and it's worldwide. You hear it in almost every language. And it says, "Let's drink to health." I say, "Let's drink to health with healthy drink."
Yeah, I'll cheers to that.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for coming to the madness of my mind here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I do these things because I'm really just working it out for myself in front of people. That's what I figured. And maybe one day I'll have a talk figured out. Right? But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, and actually, before I go, I should mention this place here. This is, I think, local to you guys.
Yeah.
Right? Like 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes from here. You're kidding me. What is it? That's right, yeah, 5 minutes from here. Andy. All right. Well, I want to go there. Maybe. Are you around on Monday? Do you want to go? Okay. I'd like to go. So I made a tincture with this stuff. This is distilled honey. I'm so excited about this because I think I react terribly to the grain-based alcohols. But mead, on the other hand, I feel great when I take mead. And so I figured like a distilled mead has got to be even better, right? Probably. Anyway, for tincturing, I thought this would be amazing. And I'm tincturing Amanita muscaria with this. More to come on that. Come in 2 years and you'll see my talk on Amanita muscaria and distilled honey. And my experiences of it. And I'll be up here going, I don't know what happened.
percentages on that
Of
that
the
you were just
wine
talking
here?
about?
The distilled.
Yeah.
This is on par with like a strong vodka. So it's 151. 151 proof. Do they have a bunch to sell before they do?
Yeah, they were selling it to me in unlabeled bottles for cheaper for making medicine.
Sorry, say it again.
They were selling it to me in unlabeled bottles for making medicine for like a lower price.
Amazing.
I wonder if I wasn't supposed to tell anyone.
You weren't supposed to tell me. Definitely not. I won't say that you sent me. What's your name? Absolutely. And I think, but the exciting thing about this is, honey is just this amazing natural product that creates an alcohol that I can drink and feel okay with. This stuff, on the other hand, I might get a bit of a headache sometimes, but maybe not. It's filled with herbs, right? Let's just fill it with stuff.
What are they called? What's it called? The distilled wayward?
Oh, what? Sorry, what? They're called the Wayward Distillery. Where did that come from? The Wayward Distillery. And this is, you can take a look at it. Did I see a hand?
Probably because honey's a lot more expensive.
Oh yeah, it's super expensive. So, what is your name again? It is really expensive. That's why I'm doing it now. It's like I only have a little bit of that and a little bit of that, and I figured the two are mutually just kind of cool. Yeah, so. Yeah, right. I would love to have a barrel of this that I make all my tinctures from it. So, apart from the stress-relieving, relaxing nature of alcohol that it has on the body and mind, it's an antiseptic, and in higher doses, it's anesthetizing. Great for situations, acute situations rather, but perhaps not for chronic disease. Unless it's a tincture, maybe, with something wonderful in it, right? The combination of alcohol and our herbal medicine is really, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing technology, right? And I think as long as, as long as we're infusing alcohol with botanicals, we've been doing this for thousands of years, and we'll do it for thousands of years more if this is what I'm looking out at, right? Because this is us. This is our thing. This is our medicine, and we're going to brew today's cool medicines for the future to look up and have some guy crazily walking around going, back in 2022 they were doing this. I don't know, maybe not, but that's it. Please enjoy a little bit more of the white wine too, and
Sorry, I think it's
oh, it's a laundry list. You ready?
Did you make the wine?
I didn't make the wine. That's the one part I wish I could say I did, and I will get there. Does everybody else want to do everything? I don't have time to do it.
It's a problem.
It is a problem. Okay, so the herbs were hawthorn berry, arbutus, cacao, rose, passionflower, California poppy, woodbine, calamus root, lemon balm,
Oh, it's not just me.
thank you for
Oh yeah, we just
I can see there's something.
Nice to meet you guys.
How did you find me? Saul, come here. Come here.
So much. I just want to take a course with him being the teacher the whole time. He's just so engaging and so smart and fun and wonderful.
Yeah, like if you go say email or something.
I gotta go get some. I gotta film the food on the table before people get in and eat it.
Okay.
I'm supposed to do that. Are you gonna stick around during the dinner hour?